All right. Well, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. I was hoping to start at the usual time at 10, but took a little while to get going, and I'm not sure who I'm talking to because no one's in the stream yet. For all you future people who aren't trying to tune in at a specific time, I'm just going to start it off. Today's photo set is going to be the first group of photos I took when I moved to Baltimore. Maybe it's not the first group of photos, but it's an early group of photos when I moved to Baltimore for graduate school back in 2003. My house was about half a block from the Baltimore Terminal Sub, which is generally called the Baltimore Beltline. It's a trench that snakes up from the Inner Harbor under the Howard Street Tunnel, curves around the top of the city, and then connects to the route to Philadelphia. I like to say, I think it was built around 1890. It was the site of the first railroad electrification due to a lot of tunnels. By the time I moved in, all that had been ripped out in the 1950s. And the Baltimore Beltline was about half a block from where my apartment was. Now, just hearing a train going by wasn't giving me enough time, but if I would be in my apartment with the scanner on, I'd hear there was a detector for westbound trains, and eastbound trains would call the signal at Huntington Avenue interlocking, which was a fairly extended interlocking. So either way, I would have about a minute, 30 seconds to a minute to grab my camera, run out the back of the apartment building, down the street, and take pictures of the stuff going by. And I did this for about the first year I was there. Not constantly, but I did it a lot. And then I sort of got burnt out on it, and I stopped doing that. So even though I lived half a block from, a fairly major CSX route, I really didn't take advantage of it for a lot of the time I was there, just because it was just so, common. And given the way that CSX went with all GE all the time, I really wasn't missing much. But in those early years, I did get a lot of good stuff. And you're going to hopefully see that today if people tune in. So, sorry that no one's here. Hope the people some show up. But for anyone who sees this in the future, welcome. And, you get to watch it at least. 1 second. While I wait for people to show up, I'm going to... it's not going to be helpful. I'm going to try to arrange some of my photos here just so I can figure out what I used to call some of this stuff. Because I have a lot of signal photos going in. A lot of photos of a lot of signals I took a lot of time, so I sort of have to figure out what I should be using for the naming process. But I'm also just delaying while hopefully people show up. Well, that's not going to be good. Anyway, I was again like my second bit of really great luck was I would come out the back of my apartment and I would go down the alley, and at the end of the alley was 26th Street in Baltimore, between North Charles and St. Paul. This is where the wall collapsed in 2014, if anyone saw that video. But in 2003, it was pretty original. And even today, it's still pretty original. I mean, one of the retaining walls went, but they saved a lot of the stuff. And from that location, I overlooked the westbound home signal to Huntington Avenue interlocking, which is the east end of the North Avenue passing siding, which is a 5,000 plus foot siding, so 1 mile, half a block, between Mount Royal interlocking, which is within the limits of the 1890, the Mount Royal station. If you know Baltimore, the train shed is still there, and that's one end of the siding, and the other end of here was Huntington Avenue interlocking. All of this used to be part of North Avenue Towers territory. Here's a picture I had already pulled up. North Avenue Tower. North Avenue Tower is located sort of where the light rail crosses now, but at the time it was a Pennsylvania Railroad branch line. The tower there was to guard the crossings, and by the 1980s, it handled everything between Mount Royal, which as you can see right there, on the left side, and then that's where Huntington Avenue is. Now, when I was there, it was just one switch, 3 signals total. But this was under the control of North Ave Tower, and then if you want to picture North Ave Tower, there it is. And at some point in the 1980s, or that was closed, everything was CTC'd, and then it was re-signaled around 2012. So, we got any more people? Okay, we got some more people. Anyway, hopefully, did I get my signaling is gonna be forever. Anyway, the signals were approach lit. So let's say, usually if I heard a train coming, and it was coming from east, going westbound, the signal would be lit up when I got there. Otherwise, it would be dark until the train passed it coming the other way. Sometimes if I was walking by, you see the signal lit. That means, hey, there's a train coming. You might as well stop and wait for the train to come. So anyway, that's my just sort of rambling on here. Another thing to look at is these steel pipes. I think I mentioned this before. That is a major East Coast fiber optic link. Note that the pipes aren't quite even though they are unattended, even if you went down there, you don't need any cutting tools to sort of get in there and cause an internet outage. The fire in the Howard Street tunnel back in whenever that happened, early 2000s, disrupted the internet because the lines run right through the tunnels. So I'm going to start just going here. I also have the timetable up for this, for the Baltimore terminal sub, as it was in 2005, which actually postdates these photos. So you can see all the little tunnels they have on the route: Huntington Avenue Tunnel, Charles and Oak Street Tunnel, St. Paul and Calvert Street Tunnel, Guilford Tunnel. There's your big Howard Street Tunnel, and there's Huntington Ave. No D. Oh, there's a D. Okay. Huh. This should be the one that allows me to select. There you go. Computer's going to be a little slow because I am having it have to re-index a whole ton of files. But whatever. So it always takes me a little bit to get going. So sorry about that. Ugh. So anyway, once we get going, we'll get going pretty quick. But like I said, it's taken this time to try to re-index one of my larger directories. So let's see who's around. Is anybody around? No one's really around. Come on. Come on. Oh, the excitement of live internet entertainment. Come on. There it goes. So here we have, right off the bat, again, this is not the first time I was here taking pictures. I was in Baltimore starting from the beginning of that summer. I had the apartment in hand in June, and I was down there full time since August. And these photos are listed as September, but they could bleed in August. But one of the first things I caught here was CSX Diversity Unit, number 5001. Which is an AC 6000, one of the big boy GEs. I think I was only vaguely aware of that at the time. Hold on, let me pull up an appropriate. Let me set one of these to a CSX roster here. There you go. Now this is an out of date. This is sort of an out of date roster, but at least I'm sure it'll give me some of the stuff. Where are we? Yeah, and yeah, there's that. There's my poorly cropped 2003 attempt at a photo. I'm going to do a little bit of renaming. I was putting the sub here, but that's not the greatest way to do that in the world. So, there we go. Of course, we have. Is one of the reasons I sort of laid off. I sort of lost interest. Nah, I can't do that. In this specific area, just because the angle wasn't the greatest. I mean, it was fine angle. You didn't have a lot of backlighting, but it was just you sort of this sort of looking down from above type of thing. It sort of got tired after a while. Anywho, let's see what other surprises we got. Here we have a nice HLCX 8161, which might be it's definitely a Burlington Northern, so let's just see if they changed it. I'd prefer not to have to refer to it as the HLCX number. Yeah, that looks accurate. SD40-2. At this point, yes, it's an HLCX. See, here's the issue. It's like everything's at a 45 goddamn degree angle. I can't fix this. You know, if I try to level it, it's gonna chop off half the photo. I mean, it's like what was I thinking? Now, you know, this wasn't. You know, look at this. You know, try to level that, and whoa, where'd half the photo go? There's nothing I can really do. It's Dutch angles all the way. It's like I'm living in Battlefield Earth world. So, not much I can do, unfortunately, to fix this cockamamie thing here. 8161. So that's just stuff you learn over time. Try to avoid weirdo Dutch angles. That just doesn't work. I do like these large porches on the SD40s. I'm not sure what was up with that. I think that EMD was just making one frame back then that would support the 45s or something. I know that there was a thing for SD40 short frames, but those giant porches you got on a lot of those, just sort of interesting how that worked. And like I said, I generally try to use original. If something's like a lease, a paint over from an original unit, I usually try to give the original unit the credit, because you generally, I think people care more about the paint schemes than they do about the what something was in that thing. But before I do a crop here, you can't really see it here, but this is where the street collapsed. And for years, if you go on Street View and go back in time, there was just the car, like, there's the sidewalk. The sidewalk is angled down toward the street, and the street's angled down toward the sidewalk. There was just perpetual problems with drainages and sinkholes there. This tree, of course, bit the dust. Another thing that I never liked was it was always nice and green down there, and CSX would always come by every so often with their stupid drainage things and rip out all the nice foliage. So I did my best to toss down lawn debris and things to try to rebuild it. Anyway, in this case, it's not Dutch angled too badly, so I'm just going to go in here and write it. You can still get most of the pictures there. I'm just going to rename it for that CSX SD40 number 8055. I think it's an SD40, but close enough. Major source of traffic on the line back in the early 2000s. And still to this day, but I just don't know. Due to COVID, you don't know how much traffic's doing anything these days. But a lot of it was New York City garbage going down to the south. I think a lot of it sort of goes to the west now or gets recycled. I think they're doing better on their recycling programs. But they had them all on TTX flat cars, and these were 1 TEU municipal waste storage bins, and they could put 4 on a trailer, or maybe these aren't 1 TEU. I have no number. See, USWX is a US Waste X leaser. So let me just pull up the number on that one. I could pull the container thing off. I love how it's the graffiti. It's not graffiti. That's the actual reporting mark. So I'm going to call that USWX 2001. That stuff stank, by the way, especially in summer. It's just one more reason I dislike New York City. Them and their garbage. Nice to see this close up. Sometimes you'd see entire unit trains of this stuff. Today, more often than not, it was a block. But sometimes I would see, honest to God, unit trains of that. When I was there, it was mostly U.S. Waste, but you'd also see those gray ones. Yeah, see here we have some high cubic capacity trash bins coming out of New York City, which I think is the ones you still see today. So that's a USWX 0088417. I'm not a big freight car taking picture person. Some people love doing that. 8417. So they fill up rpicturearchives.net with 500 photos of freight cars. I guess someone's got to do it. Here we have a nice southern highball car. Let me see if I can't do this. See, again, I'm in the Dutch angle mode. Really nice southern 585XXX. Who knows what that is? And here we have a CSXT 708742. So, call me inexperienced. That southern scheme. There's one preserved in Manassas. It's nice. Which is it? 708742. 708742 plus SOU 585XXX. Oops. And finally, we have something better. See, before this is one of their AC 4400 fleet. This was an AC 6000. Wow, they must have been I think they were brand new back then. See, I just didn't. I wasn't looking for them back then. And that's then when I go back through it. What is 688 today? Delisted. This is where I'm going to hit up my Wikipedia, AC 6000. And I just want to try to see when they were built. CSX, blah, 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 blah. 114 units between 603 and 699 and 5,000 and 516. But between 98 and 2000. See, they had a bunch of these. I'm just going to see what I can do to how I should frame this, because I want to get the relay hut there. I'm going to bring this in a little bit right there and just have it go down. There we go. Looks pretty nice. I mean, it's only probably only about 3 years old at the time. Probably have a better picture than that. There we go. Yeah, see, you know it's the 6000 because they got the double exhaust. So what, you know, if you're ever wondering, you know, if you're looking at your pictures, the double exhaust and then the long radiator hangover let you know it's an AC 6000. If you don't have your Google with you. Or can't see the number. So yeah, whatever. I don't know what time span these pictures were. It wasn't like I would get 8. I wasn't looking over my scanner every day. It was, like every minute of every day. It would be, I get home from school or class or whatever, and I had the scanner on. Maybe it was a Saturday. I'm at my computer, and maybe I hit 1 or 2 a day. Some days it'd be, pretty right at, one right after the other. By the way, 75 there, I'm pretty sure is an AC 6000. No, sorry, AC 4400. Yeah, I mean 1995. Those are still chugging along with CSX to this day. So this whole group of photos could have been taken, August, all over the course of a month, just a few a day. Hello. Thanks for watching. By the way, this is going to be part 1 of 2, so I will be back tomorrow to finish the rest of it. Yes, and here we have, again, these are, I'm sort of glad that I can redo this, because the street, again, that caved in was really nice. There was a lot, while I was there in the 10 years before the cave-in or the wall collapsed. This is, by the way, I'm standing on the wall that collapsed. Original 1890 granite topped. They did a lot to the fence was original. They did a lot to restore it to pretty much the way it was, but it was still new. But the street was tree lined. There was tree death over the years, and then when the thing caved in, all the trees went with it. So it's nice to be able to sort of see, to have a record of what it looked like before everything collapsed. And a lot of these pictures, I said, were just sort of trapped in early 2000s web formatted hell. One thing that you would occasionally, you occasionally see it anywhere, but one thing that is occasionally seen are molten sulfur cars. Even if they have the molten sulfur scratched out for terrorism concerns, it's pretty obvious what they are because they're covered in molten sulfur. But it's GATX 3000, 354. Just gonna remember that. These are molten sulfur is produced from removal of sulfur from usually petroleum, especially with the regulations on ultra low sulfur diesel. It is then shipped around often for the production of sulfuric acid or other things. Note that removal of sulfur dioxide from coal power plant emissions results in gypsum, not elemental sulfur. So here we just have another picture of the Huntington Avenue signal there, displaying stop in the tunnel mouth. Luckily, I got close-up photos. It was funny. I think that signal was always there for years and years, and I just never... It was one of those things that... It's like rural rail fanning and urban rail fanning and the different rules that apply. And, cities provide a lot of anonymity, but I'm always feel more free to do shit in the rural area as opposed to the city because, you never know when some cop's going to be rolling by and it's going to give you a hard time. I mean, there's not a lot there's not a lot of excuse you have with urban sealed right of ways to be there. In a rural area, there's no fence, there's no nothing. But in a city, yes, I wasn't even aware for years. There's a hole in the fence. I knew how to get you had to climb through the fence, go down there, climb down the ladder, and then you're on the right of way, 20 feet below below street level, and someone sees you, and there's not much you can do. I mean, some guy sees you, yells at you. You could book it through the tunnel. A train shows up. It's just not one of those things. Especially because it's an urban environment. Everybody's more on the ball of looking out for vandalism and theft. The irony is if you look, I actually think that if in certain cases if you look more like a local homeless dude, they're gonna bug you less than you look like a kid that's up to no good. So here we have a wonderfully Conrail painted blue SD60, either M or I. They were just recently sold off. They're going into service with a lot of Genesee and Wyoming properties now. But back in 2003, this is only 4 years after the Conrail split. It was just absolutely, they were still running around in their lovely Conrail blue. I always liked the thought that Conrail was an EMD, but they weren't. I mean, they were majority GE by the 1990s, and I don't know, even though with the purchase of the SD80 Max and the 70 Max, I don't think I had Conrail continued on. I assume that they probably would have gone into the AC4, would have started going GEACs, but you never know. It's a great unanswered question. Because they were just starting to get into AC traction. And that was a beautiful picture of that Conrail there. Probably not rrpictures.net worthy because it's a little blown out. This camera's not great, but still, I like it. You have a rear picture. Yeah, I always wonder, like, man, if only I'd done more pictures there, or why did I stop? And it's one of those, like, yes, I would have had more roster shots of locomotives that are now gone, but it would have just been, I think I got a pretty good representative sample over the years. And this wasn't the only place I took pictures on CSX, too, so. Some people have that spot that's near their house, and they have 30 years worth of pictures of everything. Interesting thing here is COFC. This whole Baltimore Beltline is the reason that CSX lacks a double stack route into Philly and New York from the south. There are always plans to try to. I think that they are going through with dropping they're going to dig them out. They're going to drop the roadbed another bunch of feet. But the whole Beltline, it's a lot of little, it's a lot of tunnel stuff. Now here we have. This is interesting now. Here we have the other end of Huntington Avenue interlocking, and if I pull this up on the map, so here we have this tunnel collapse. There's the St. Paul Tunnel. There's the Charles Street Tunnel. And you can see the length. Come on. I lock it up. Yep. Anyway, you can see the length of the interlocking there because they did it for signal site alignment. You have a tunnel with a curve in it underground. They put the westbound signal there, even though the switch is right here. And this is the bridge. The Sisson Street Bridge is where this picture that I just coming up was taken from. Again, my 3x zoom camera doesn't give me a lot of range here. I'm not sure what I should do, if I should try to cut it or what. I can make it a little wider for sure. Yeah, there we go. Because just don't have enough resolution. But here we have those rusty box cars where some of the cars were pulled out that was involved in that Howard Street tunnel fire, and they sat there. This is one of those things that can happen. Oftentimes there'll be an accident, and then you'll wonder, like, why is you'll be there, and you'll somewhere nearby in a local scrapyard or a field. There's all this stuff that's piled up, and it's because the insurance company, until there's an insurance settlement, the equipment gets sort of frozen while all the litigation goes on. Because if an insurance settlement's paid out, then technically the insurance company then owns the smoldering wreckage. And maybe the insurance company doesn't know what to do with it, and it sits around. So that's what they're for. It was either pending a settlement or those were there so long they built a fence around them. There might have been also some sort of investigation going on. I'm not sure, but I do know that those were involved in the fire, and they sat there for years. At some point they vanished, but they sat there for many, many years. I was not around for the Howard Street tunnel fire. That happened a couple years before I got there. Oops. Yeah, that's fine. This is just a view a view of the west from the Sisson Street Bridge, or yeah, west. I'm going to label this as part of the interlocking. I'm just going to say it's a westward view. It's standard now when I do photos and stuff to always get eastern and western views of the. Wait, what? Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh, shoot! Oh, crap! Pulled some of this stuff off before it was properly sorted. Gonna get number 17, 19, 26, 27. 2, 3, 4. Okay. Back when I was rotating these photos, I forgot to preserve the dates, so that stuff can get screwed up. We'll get a couple of these here. Same curve, just without the zoom. We'll save it in a second. Now these curves, this is where the real work of climbing out from sea level really happens. This is why it was electrified. You'll hear it. And by the way, notice how wide the right-of-way is. If I go back to this, you can see there was a third main track in there, or some sort of siding track that was removed. You can see it on the model board. And in this photo, you can see there's ample room for that third track in there. When trains are crawling up through this territory from Mount Royal up, it's a stiff grade. They're really rolling, and the engines they're a notch 8, and you can hear the wheels screaming around these curves right here. This curve in particular. So when I go and would hear it on calling the signal, you'd go out there and you'd hear the wheels going, doing there. I'm not gonna embarrass myself by doing wheel squeal. If you go on my YouTube channel, the one you're currently on watching this live stream, you'll a lot of the videos, later videos, I can capture the wheel sound going around this curve all the way up from downtown. Here we just have another view of those things. Let me just quick straighten it and crop it. There we go. And also I did get pictures of these signals too. Not the best. Again, I was super timid about getting busted. Not that it's ever happened or would. The irony is after 2015, the police stopped doing their jobs, but that was after the signals had all been ripped out, so... This is also the location where I captured the Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey funeral train heading by. Let me just dump the rest of these couple pictures here. And here we have an EOT. It is what is that? JTSX 101141. JTSX. Okay. 101141. If you never know, one of the types of photos that one of the naming stuff I hate to have to apply is anything with a, you know, if it has a milepost number or some other convention I have to look up. But if you have a freight rail car, just use its number and you're good to go. Okay. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Uh-oh. Oh, I missed one. Number 23. Alright. I'll just do that real quick. Yeah, see here we have another end of train. But because the signal's there, I can just be like, oh, it's a TOFC end of train. Which helps, gives me my differentiation on my file name that I need. And this one I can just crop that whole bottom of the photo off and change it to be that. Yep, I'm not even having to go too crazy on the resolution there either. Westbound Dwarf, TOFC, EOT. Now let's see, a lot of my system is simply there to try to prevent namespace collisions and be descriptive, of course. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, sorry. 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Okay. Perfect. And I got all of those. 14, 13. Is that the right one? Yeah. Okay. We are almost done here. Let's see what's up in the chat. Oh, he finally got some more people. If you have any questions, just throw them out there. For those of you who have missed it, I'm doing photos I took back in 2003 when I moved to Baltimore for graduate school. These are pictures. A lot of them are on the Baltimore terminal subdivisions or the Baltimore Beltline. And some, as you saw, we have some Baltimore light rail coming up. Here's the Baltimore Streetcar Museum, which is very conveniently located near downtown. It's a great place to visit. I'm betting they're probably going to be. I would not be surprised if they're able to open during pandemic stuff. They got a lot of open air cars. It's probably a very safe activity to do, especially if they're running their open air cars with not a ton of people. I mean, there's never a ton of people on these things anyway. So just consider that. Throw them some love if they're open. Hopefully they will, because we need to be able to do it. Part of not doing the stuff you shouldn't do is being able to do the stuff you can do. I don't know what I would have called this. Not often I have to open my museums folder. Oh, there it is. I didn't even try to give it a good name. Anyway, it's a great place right near downtown Baltimore. Lots of fun stuff to do. Here we have the CSX bridge over the Jones Falls, and also the Baltimore Streetcar Museum trackage. Jones Falls isn't a waterfall. It's another name. It's like how in New York, a lot of the creeks are called kills because of the Dutch settlers and stuff. Here, there's a bunch of rivers and creeks that are just called falls. There were a lot of waterfalls because Baltimore. I'll mention this again. Baltimore's major problem is that it was a harbor, a port without a river that would take you inland. All the waterways were not only small, but were immediately had a lot of gradients. And that's why you had the first railroad in the United States was built here as opposed to a canal, because there was just no canal infrastructure. I wonder if I'm when I do stuff with BT sub, if I should be doing BT sub one word or multiple. Huh. I used to do it as one word. Not a problem. I'm just going to erase that dash. I can do the rest of that later. Let's make sure I'm getting that right. Yeah. I didn't do many. Just gotta erase a few hyphens. Okay, we're good to go. Anywho, there we go. Here we have another view, and notice again that third track. That third track is obvious here in the model board, and this bridge is located between those where the diamonds used to be. It's going to be somewhere right in there. I mean, it's not model boards are not to scale. Oops, there we go. And you can see the Baltimore Streetcar Museum. These are all taken from the Route 1 Skew Arch Bridge, which is located. See, there's the thing. It comes up, sharp curve. Now it's interesting. Like railroad-wise, it's actually not very far. It doesn't seem like a very far walk, but like if you're walking all the way down there, it is a pretty far walk. But anyway, you squeals around that curve, comes down here, squeals around another curve, and there's your Streetcar Museum right there. There's your Route 1 bridge. Another irony is that you can't get there from here. You can't get from this area. You see, it's past the substation and the taxis. You can't get. There's there's just a cliff and fences and all sorts of other stuff. I mean, you'd have to bushwhack pretty badly, and you'd end up getting stuck. The only way to get to the Streetcar Museum, if you have to sort of go all the way down here, there in theory is a stairway there that if you crawl over the stairs, you could, from Howard's, because again, this level here is like at a higher level than this little creek that cuts through there. So here's this Route 1 bridge that sort of goes over all the railroads trying to squeeze through this one part of Baltimore. It's fascinating just how the local topography has jammed everything in there, just because it's just this whole the geography is you have these rivers that sort of cut these channels feeding into the Baltimore harbor, and all the railroads had to squeeze through them. So at this location where the Streetcar Museum was, you had the Maryland and Pennsylvania. You have the Northern Central coming through here. The light rail line, I remember I was mentioning that Diamond. Well, that PR route would come out there over that bridge, and they would cross at grade right there, and then use the light rail right away to go do something industrial. But as you'll see, a lot of this stuff is coming over this bridge. Anyway, just sort of showing you, give you the context to where this bridge is. Oh, you know what's a thing? Google Terrain is a thing. You can sort of see what the issue is. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so this makes it very obvious what's going on. There's the CSX Baltimore Beltline, 1890 build. That means it was very grade separated, but there it's on a positive, it's on a fill, then it cuts through Charles Village below grade, still below grade, sneaks around on the top of that cliff, and then there is where it crosses the Jones Falls, which has dug its way through there. But it's on top of everything else, and then it sort of goes and then sneaks underground down Howard Street, and there's where the Mount Royal Station is right there. Here we go. Here's a great view of the Jones Falls Bridge for CSX, or Baltimore Beltline. And there again, you can see where the third main track used to be. Cutting back. Yep, see right there. In this case, that third main track was the siding, if you can see on this board, but it was clearly, at some point, I think there were it looks like there were 3 tracks through the Howard Street Tunnel. I think one of them was a gauntlet track, though. It's not wide enough for 3, but they think that they were running with gauntlet operation, but eventually stopped. The Mount Royal Station, which is again on the board, looks like it had 4 tracks at one point. Sorry for slowing things down here. There's a lot of, and again, here this is going over the lower PR line, but where I was at North Ave, if you saw, I'll just pull this up, a couple up here on the photos. Where is that? Yeah, so remember those little archways, okay? Yeah. Operator. So just keep how this sort of looks in mind. Not that one. This is the best one. All right. So here I am at the North Ave light rail station. It's right at the it's right where the maintenance facility is. So it's 3 tracks. You get a lot of so hold on, it's 5042. You get a lot of light rail vehicles hanging over there. That's why I have a pocket track. At the time, they were running a really terrible service pattern, like an awful. They had one train that would go from Glen Burnie at the extreme southern line up to the Hunt Valley at the extreme north of the line. Then they would have another one that would go from Penn Station to the airport. So if you were coming from all the way, like the busiest part of the line had no direct airport access. You'd have to come and change trains to go to the airport. Today, they do no longer do that, fortunately, and there's a story behind that too. But one interesting thing, so the light rail vehicles are numbered in the 5000 series, this one being 5042. And they actually were numbered in, they went back to the old Baltimore Transit Company, and these were numbered in accordance with what the next class would be for Baltimore streetcars, which is kind of a cool historical nod. If you go to the Streetcar Museum and stand next to some of their their more enthusiastic members, you will learn all these little factoids. So here we have number 5014 coming in. These are currently getting rebuilt. They were, I don't know who exactly built them. They were built, I think it was like ABB, but there was a lot of subcontractors involved. Like the trucks were manufactured by some outfit in Ohio. They're actually made of carbon steel. Painted carbon steel, and they're all rust. When they pulled off the paint, there was huge amounts of body damage. Here's the switch for the pocket track. I have no clue how I'm going to be able to number these or whatever. I've had issues trying to number these in the past. Whatever. Here we have 5039 departing. Note, look. There are the two little archways, and if we go here, that is where in the foreground is where the PR track now went through. This is after North Ave Tower was closed. And they used this to push the light rail through. It was again PR freight infrastructure. So it's just interesting, sort of how, again, this is opposite directions. That's looking north towards where I'm taking the picture. This is looking towards where North Ave Tower used to be. Now this doesn't cross CSX, the Baltimore Beltline at grade. It does something what they call the Rebel Yell. It's named after a roller coaster at King's Dominion, I believe. It was named after the roller coaster because the light rail line has to go duck under Interstate 83, but go over CSX to the point where they can actually have clearance for it. And I think at some point the pantographs are just a fraction of an inch from locking down. So they just managed to squeeze that through. That whole thing that they did with getting the light rail over that, which took place in 1992, is another impediment to CSX being able to clear the route for double stacks. And if you want to see where that is, so that's where the diamond used to be. but instead the light rail hugs on the side, and then it ducks under Interstate 83, then over the CSX thing right there, then ducks back under Howard Street, and then it pulls into the Mount Royal station right there at street level, whereas the CSX tracks are one level below. It's I mean, I'm probably making it sound more exciting than it is. But it was one of those things that if you read the light rail book, that was one of the impediments. Another thing there was that CSX was originally not happy about having to deal with that, but because the MTA, the Maryland MTA, had effectively purchased the Northern Central, or at least a part of the Northern Central, they had an active priority. They could, if they had asked, because when two railroads have you have a situation where you might have a crossing at grade. The railroad that was there first, the other one who's crossing it has to pay for the crossing and any interlocking or something, an alternate means. Because they had the Northern Central's priority, which dates back to 1835 or something, the Beltline was 1890s. CSX the Maryland MTA actually would have had the rights for a diamond to be placed there at CSX's expense. So CSX, after that threat, CSX decided that they would go along with the non-diamond solution. Just sorry if you missed that there. The light rail used in there, they have a number of what I'll call like restricted speed interlockings. They have like a lot of light rail systems. They have street mode and like mainline mode, and in their street mode interlockings, Camden, the one at the junction for the Penn Station thing, here at North Ave, they actually installed PR-style position light dwarfs, often with punch boxes. Sometimes reverse routes don't even have signals. They just have a little stop sign. So here we have that one hanging out in the pocket track heading downtown. I'm just trying to get through all these North Ave pictures. That Route 1 bridge, though, lets you see a lot. You got the Baltimore Terminal, the Baltimore Beltline for CSX. You got the light rail going under it, and as you're going to see coming up, Amtrak Northeast Corridor runs under it as well. Here we just have some catenary overhead sectionalization at the south end of the interlocking. Again, not too interesting, but again, those tunnels weren't bored for this. This was part of a PRR freight branch. I don't think it was part of the Maryland and Pennsylvania, but I also don't think it was. This might have just been how the Northern Central got out of there. Because I always thought the Northern Central went up from. I have to go and get some. Because I always thought the Northern Central would branch off the NEC right here. And look, there it goes along the way. But this line there, I don't know why that was there. Why they had that extra little branch. Maybe it was like a little bit of a flying junction. Got me. Okie doke. I'll make the last cut a little shorter. Sort by name. Cut down to 12. Make sure that's the last one I got. Yep. Okay. And how many pictures do we got left for tomorrow? 49. Actually, I'm going to cut that. I'm going to call that a day. We'll do the rest tomorrow. I know that I started late. As you can see, in addition to, I'm going to have some Amtrak NEC stuff. CSX, blah, 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 more Conrail, some other things. So, yes, definitely join me again tomorrow. Definitely going to try to start at 10 p.m. or thereabouts. Anybody have any questions? Anyway, thanks for joining in. Sorry for the delay. And you guys have a great night and stay safe. And I will be seeing you tomorrow.